Hello, this tutorial is for making bar charts for categorical variables in Power BI with the assumption that you are a complete beginner, so I'm going to go through everything pretty incrementally. I'm basing this tutorial on a hypothetical weighted data set that I made with ChatGPT, and it's essentially hypothetical survey data. The chart that we're going to be making today is this bar chart, which is age groups broken down and then having counts and proportions displayed for them. I'll show you how to import your data either through SharePoint or with a file that's locally saved. We're going to start by opening a blank Power BI desktop document. So we're going to open up this blank report and we're going to go ahead and import some data. So the first way we're going to do it is through SharePoint, assuming you have a CSV file or some sort of data file in a SharePoint folder. So we're going to click right here. Go to Details, and then we're going to scroll all the way down to this path and copy a direct link. Now we're going to open up our empty dashboard. We're going to go to Get Data under the Home tab, More, and SharePoint folder. So you're going to go ahead and paste your link into this SharePoint site URL and click OK and then log in with your credentials. So I'm not going to upload my data or import my data that way. I have mine locally saved as a CSV file. And this is a preview of our data. We're going to go ahead and load it. And now it's loaded. So we're going to look at our desktop interface here, and the left-hand panel shows the report view where we create our visuals, and table view over here is where we can view our data like we would in an Excel file. Model view has it's a semantic model. It basically goes by relational database rules, but we're not going to go over that today. So we'll go back to our report or table view to get to know our data a little bit. For ID, we have 1,000 distinct identification numbers. We have gender, age groups, state, and then we have some other variables. And then we have weight. So we're not going to use our weight variable today. We'll do that in the next video to make the same graph just as a weighted bar chart. But for this one, it's going to be unweighted. So we're going to start by clicking on this clustered column chart. And we're going to open up this weighted data set. And that shows us all of our variables. The variable of interest today is the age variable, which is age groups. So we'll go ahead and drag that onto the x-axis. And we're going to take this same variable and drag it onto the y-axis. What that does is it puts the age groups on the x-axis, and then it breaks down the age groups by count of age, so count of observations in each age group. Something else you can do is a distinct count, which tells you there are 5 distinct age groups, and this is 1 distinct, this is 2 distinct, 3 distinct. We're not going to do that today, we're just going to go back to count. So I would like to put this in the correct order, starting with 18 to 24 years and then going up to 55 to 65. So we'll go to more options right here, sort axis, we're going to sort it by age. And I want to do ascending as opposed to descending. So we now have this sorted in order. Resorting your columns does get a little bit complicated when you don't have numbers that just go up by 1 each time, or letters that are further down in the alphabet, but we are not going to worry about that right now. So now we want to add some proportions to this plot, and we need to do a few steps to do that. We're going to create some measures, which are not variables, but numbers that we can calculate based on variable values, and I'll show you what I mean. We want percentage of observations or participants in each of these age groups. Right now we just have the age group and then the count of age. As you can see when I hover, that's what it shows, is the age group and then the count in each age group. So in order to make our percentages, we need to make some proportions first. And for the proportion, we need to have the number of relevant values divided by the total number of values. So we have to make those two measures in order to make that equation. So we'll go under our weighted data set and then new measure. And our first variable, we're going to make a total count variable. So we'll call this count total. And the total count is the total number of observations. So we'll use the distinct count function. And this language is called DAX, D-A-X. In addition to having the distinct count, we need to make sure that this stays as a static number. So no matter what filters you put on here, if say you're just doing in the year 2023 or for males, you just want to make sure that you still have 1,000 as a total count when you're trying to get your proportions. So we'll use the calculate function, because what this does is this allows us to put a filter on our expression. So our filter is going to be that we are going to include everything all the time. Okay, so for our next measure, we're going to do the number of relevant observations. So we'll make a new measure. And we'll call this the count of observations is equal to distinct count of IDs. And it's really important here that each ID is a unique number and there are no duplicates in this table. And now we can go ahead and make our proportion measure. So the proportion is going to be the observation count over the total count. So I'll say our proportion is equal to, we're going to divide, or use the divide function. The numerator is going to be our observation count, and the denominator is going to be our count total. And we need to make sure we put these in brackets. Okay, so that is our proportion measure. So if we drag this proportion into our tooltips, that adds proportion to this little box when we hover. So now we have the age groups, the count, and then the proportion. The proportion, I would like to show this as a percentage. So this, make sure this is checked off and or highlighted, and then you're going to go over here to format. You can either go to this drop down menu and change it to a percentage, or you can just hit this little percentage sign right here, and that's going to change the format to a percentage, and I'm just going to do 1 decimal place. And there are 1,000 observations in this data set, so this makes sense that the proportion would be 24.1% for 241 out of 1,000 observations. This looks pretty good, so we're going to clean up our labels next. So for age, we're going to rename this and turn it into age group. Count of age, we'll just change this to count. And you'll notice as I'm changing these field names right here, it also changes them in the axes. So this is now age group instead of age, and this is now count instead of count of age. Your title is always going to be some sort of combination of your field. So this one is count and proportion by age group. And proportion, I'm going to change that to say percentage, because under this little hover box it still says proportion, and it would just look a little bit better if it says percentage. And we'll change the title. We'll just change this to age groups, broken down. And then lastly, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to this visual right here and go to columns. And you can change these columns into different colors. You can change specific columns into different colors if you'd like them to stand out. What I like to do for all of mine is to go into this conditional formatting and do a gradient based on percentages. And then I'll change the low one to some sort of light color, and then the high one to some sort of darker color on the same scale. Click OK. And now we have this. This looks pretty nice. I'm going to add some data labels to it, which adds these numbers up here. So these are counts. I think I would like this to be percentages instead. So I'm going to go under this value, and instead of count, I'm going to do proportion or percentage. So now we have the percentages on top, which makes this legend redundant. So we'll take our legend off. And turn that off. Okay, so now we have a basic unweighted bar chart, and our next video is going to be the same bar chart for this categorical variable, but we're going to break it down by weights. Thank you for watching.